What's up, everybody? Welcome to IGN Game Scoop. I'm your host, Damon Hatfield. Joining me this week is Vincent Janito.
Scoop.
Justin Davis.
Scoop.
And Sam Claiborne.
3 scoops.
We've got a great show for you this week. We're going to talk about the Switch, of course. Talk a little bit about Middle-earth, Shadow of War. But first, let's start with what we're playing, because I think we're all playing the same thing.
Ooh, Snipper Clips.
Hell yeah.
Hey, I mean,
let's talk about Snipper Clips for a
don't
second.
sleep on Snipper
If you're not watching this on YouTube, by the way, it is day 5. The robots are listening. Their arms are everywhere. So yes. Blink with your answers if you want to be.
No, about Snipper Clips, though. I was one of the people that pre-ordered my Switch from Amazon, and it just didn't show up on launch day.
Yep.
It didn't.
Oh, that happened.
I didn't get it till Monday afternoon, so I actually had a little
That
bit
sucks.
of a later start on
That
Zelda.
was almost universed for Amazon.
Yeah,
apparently.
a lot of people on Amazon.
I
they
dodged a
they
bullet
messed
with
up.
it, yeah.
But I let them know that it was late, and they gave me $20 in credit, and I used that $20 on Snipper Clips. So I got
that's
Snipper
cool.
Clips for free. So
And we're not disappointed.
I mean, no, it's Snipper Clips.
No,
is
but
super
obviously
fun.
Zelda is the game.
Yeah, Zelda is the game we're playing.
course.
The
It's
Legend of
taken
Zelda
the office by storm.
of the Wild.
Yeah.
In a way I've never seen, actually.
Pokemon Go was pretty huge here.
Sure, yeah, it was in a kind of a novelty kind of way. And even I played that, even though I didn't really love it that much. But this is something different. This is like the rare time where everyone from top to bottom, I haven't spoken to anyone who has said that Breath of the Wild is anything less than one of the most memorable experiences they've had in recent
And we're just this far in.
Yeah, I know.
I saw percentage completion today of somebody's game who's been playing a lot here, and I was like, wow, there's so much more to go.
Yeah, so I just left the Great Plateau. That's where I left off last night. That's where I am.
man.
That's where the game gets good.
That's where
No,
it really gets
I mean,
good.
it was already good. So
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Damon that I actually, I'm like everybody else, I'm loving Zelda to death, but it did make a weird first impression on me. I found the controls really awkward and the stamina system, like I drowned swimming just a few feet.
That's so frustrating when that happens. And
And
you don't
like-
realize it's because you're dashing.
Yeah,
Man,
because
it
I'm
sure
dashing
teaches
into the
you
water.
things like that.
Like it's a very unconventional, like it's so unconventional and so unlike other open world games that it really, I'm glad I stuck with it and powered through. And it's not like some like Final Fantasy 13 where you need to play 40 hours and it gets good. Like Zelda gets good quickly, but its very first impression was odd, and then it just gets better and better and better.
I came off playing Horizon. I beat Horizon last week, and I absolutely adore that game.
Yeah.
These games are big open world games, and they're very different. And the thing that I've been trying to like grasp is Horizon's really about fighting dinosaurs, and it's a big, beautiful arena for doing that. And the world doesn't serve much other purpose. It's like the world is there for you to sneak around and fight dinosaurs. And Zelda, the world is there. It doesn't stop you from doing anything. And Horizon's world like channels you to stuff or like makes dinosaurs fights harder, but it's all so singularly focused. This game, it's like I don't even have focus. I'm so bad at focusing what I'm supposed to do because I can climb every single thing.
Yeah.
And breaking that climbing wall, I think, is the biggest deal in games that's happened in a long time.
It's so bold and brave to just give people like let them go wherever they want, like let them climb. You can climb any surface. Like it's one of those things that like it feels like Super Mario 64 where like games were different after Super Mario 64 came out, and I think games are going to be different after Breath of the Wild. It's going to take developers a few years.
It's
to
like
sort
a
of catch up.
dimensional shift, and it's just in gameplay. It's like there's no more invisible walls. Like that means a lot for game design.
Yeah.
And like that took a lot of work. Like you used to have to think a long time about how you're going to get on top of a house in Kakariko Village.
Yeah.
That was what Zelda was about. It was like solving that puzzle. Now it's like those puzzles are all at the door. You just climb to the top of the house.
yeah, even
Everywhere.
something like
Unless it's raining.
1 second, Vince. Even something like Horizon, which is a far more beautiful game, I would say, but you still run into situations where you just can't walk past this part of the cliff. The game's just not going to let you walk past that. And
You're always countered by bluffs,
Yeah.
like right in the middle of where you're trying to go. I'll go way out and around it, and it runs you by really hard dinosaurs, and I love that about the game.
Yeah, but in
Man,
Zelda,
it's beautiful.
yeah, it is really beautiful. But like,
What I was going to say is that, you were saying, Sam, that games in theory now shouldn't be the same. It kind of like is this paradigm shift completely. And I hope that's the case because, man, like the last time I remember feeling like a world was this reactive in a degree that games prior to it weren't was Grand Theft Auto 3. And I feel like developers took all the wrong lessons away from Grand Theft Auto 3. Like, what they took away from Grand Theft Auto 3 is people sure do like killing NPCs a lot and
put icons all over the map. And,
yeah, sure, exactly. They kind of took the wrong lessons away, and I feel like the lesson in GTA 3 was that it's if normally a game poses a question and then the player answers it, and then the world answers back, and it becomes this complete back and forth that builds into something interesting. Like GTA 3 started doing that, and then like no one else decided they were going to go farther with that. until now, like until Breath of the Wild, where I do feel that back and forth between me and the world, a push and pull between the things I do and then what happens as a result, and then what happens as a result of that. It's just way more organic. Like I remember my first experience with Breath of the Wild was at E3, and I remember being like, it's a subtle thing, it's a small thing that happens right in what turned out to be the opening area. But you get to into that very opening area, and you can see there's a little lake off to the right, and in the middle of that lake is an island with what looks like a sword in it. And I remember trying to swim across and not having enough stamina. And I was like, oh, well, I won't bother with this then. I'll turn back and I'll do something else. I saw a tree at the top of a hill, and I'm like, okay, let me chop this tree down. And I think it's a tree. It's going to fall down. It's just going to evaporate, and then I'm going to get some wood or something. And instead, that tree fell down, and then it rolled down the hill, and then it fell into the lake, and it floated toward, like, just on momentum to the middle of the lake. And I just decided, what the hell? I'll go swim out after it. And I swim out after it, and wouldn't you know, as I'm running out of stamina, I get to that log, and I can stand on I can climb up on the log and replenish my stamina. Now I can make it to that center island in the middle of this lake. That like series of events, that chain reaction, and it all working the way it should in the world. That was the moment I knew, like, this is not going to be like any other Zelda, and it's not going to be much like any other game that we've played in an open world in ever.
It's emphasis on, I mean, we're talking about how gorgeous the world is and how big the world is, which is super true. Like, they deserve all the praise in the world for that. Like, it's got to be one of the biggest game worlds ever. But that almost does the game a disservice because it's emphasis on systems and physics and just the bravery to have a big, AAA, game that's going to sell 10 millions, many, many millions of copies, to just let players solve things however they want. Like, here's an island, here's you, figure out how to get across, eat a stamina potion to get across, chop down a tree to get across.
You have all that stuff from the start.
Yeah.
You have all the tools.
Yeah,
like,
you have
I always
all the
forget
tools.
I can stop time from like the start of the game. Like, I never use that, but then I think back, I'm like, oh yeah, I could have solved that puzzle and that puzzle and that puzzle, and I just left them.
Well, and like Jose had an example of there's a particular puzzle where I think we're gonna get into very light spoiler territory. No significant
no real
spoilers.
spoilers.
So there's a puzzle where the crux of the puzzle is you're trying to complete an electrical circuit, and you're supposed to be dragging these metal blocks around. And Jose couldn't figure out how to, he's like, I just can't figure out how to get that last block. Couldn't figure it out. And so instead, he took a sword from his inventory and threw it on the ground. And then the metal from the sword completed his electrical circuit that way.
Brilliant.
Because everything in the game has chemistry and physics behind it. And then they just trust, like, the trust that the developers have in the player is almost unprecedented.
Yeah, it is. It's totally like
Especially for Zelda, which has been hand-holding.
Well, especially for Nintendo. This is the same Nintendo that, if you die in Mario 5 times, makes you invincible. Like, it feels like a completely different company. Like, because this game's hard and very un-Nintendo-like in that way.
Which is funny, right? Because I totally said the same thing. I'm like, wow, I feel like this respects my this game respects my intelligence way more than any game that Nintendo has made, probably since the original Legend of Zelda, where it really was just plop you down in the middle of this world. Am I going to go up? Am I going to go left? Or am I going to go right? Let's figure it out and see what happens. And Nintendo hasn't had, I don't feel like like you said, the bravery or the guts to give players the freedom to kind of hang themselves
or
like
the
that.
technology.
Right, or the technology for that matter.
A bunch of things just came together with this last generation, and I'm including Switch in this now, which allowed this to happen. I mean, we talked about Gravity Rush in kind of the same terms. You can go and do anything in 3 dimensions in that game, so they don't block your character from getting to places. They have to think of different ways to make a world interesting. And I think that's really, really amazing in Zelda and that game.
Yeah.
For the longest time, people have sort of used Ocarina of Time as a major benchmark for video games. Some people call it the greatest game ever made. It's the best reviewed game of all time. Do you think this comes close to that
Ask
level?
me in 200 hours.
Okay.
I mean, it's very different. It's Zelda in the sense that it's got the little chimes and it's got, some of the enemies and Kakariko Village and like some of those places, but it doesn't feel like that's a puzzle game. And I don't know that Breath of the Wild is. I mean, it's got hundreds of puzzles in it, but I don't know. It feels like something different.
Yeah.
You know what's also cool? I can't think of another big open world game, excluding Gravity Rush 2, which I just talked about, that's kind of the Western style big open world game that has like a really positive, like not run down or not like grim fantasy universe. Like this game is like, I mean, there's something kind of grim about it, but there's so much playfulness to it. and so many people are happy in it and playful, and there's jokes all the time, and they're really cool.
Well, that's what I was
It's a
telling.
good feeling place to be.
Like again, like everyone focuses on the world so much that it does a disservice to everything else the game does well, which is the writing and characters are so good. I mean, some of the voice acting's actually a little shaky. It might be the worst thing in the game, but I want to talk.
Worst thing in the game is the ball puzzle.
Okay, that's true. Second worst thing in the game might be the voice acting. But I want to talk to every single villager in every town, not because they might have quests, but because they're weird. Like this is a weird. Like
They're never what you expect.
I've
which is
taken
really great.
dozens of screenshots of just the weird, unexpected things coming out of people's mouths that make me smile and make me laugh, and just people doing like a character does this weird little dance and just all kinds of weird stuff. It's great. It's so whimsical and wonderful.
I'm worried about it being only on Wii U and Switch because I want more people to experience it. Now, I hope that means people can afford Switches this holiday and play it and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just one of those games which I feel like is going to be culturally important.
Yeah.
And those two systems so far have very small install bases, and I'm a little bit worried about it. I want people to be able to play this game.
Well, Nintendo has reported some early success with the Switch. Sold
away.
313,048 hours in Japan, which is nearly as many as the PS4 sold in its first 48 hours in Japan. It's apparently the best 48 hours of sales in the Americas and the UK in the company's history. Breath of the Wild is now Nintendo's best-selling standalone launch game, even topping Mario 64.
Seems insane.
Yeah.
Yes,
So, I mean,
those are both
encouraging.
crazy to me. I'm trying to think of like precedent. Like Nintendo 64 is probably the last system which was hyped and people loved. I mean,
Hyped before launch.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
the
and then
Nintendo system?
because Wii U took off.
Or we did.
We took off like kind of afterwards. I don't know. I thought we would be probably more selling pretty well at launch though.
Well, I mean, that's the thing look, this is great news for Nintendo. The Switch is sold out everywhere. It's very fast selling, but it's tough to read too much into it because the Wii U sold out in the first weekend.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what I wanted to ask.
Like every console is sort of limited by however many they can make and get on store shelves. It's really like April. Like if you can buy a Switch then, or if they're still selling well, that's when we'll have an idea of whether Nintendo.
or maybe this holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, like over the next few months, that's when I think we're gonna get more insight into like is the Switch a hit or not.
And
But
then
it's
the
it's
launch
still
title
great news.
thing. Like just
Yeah.
thinking of Nintendo history, I'm like, I guess it's including pack-ins clearly because
Well-
sports probably was a
No, so it's the best-selling standalone launch game. So
Standalone
it doesn't
launch game.
include Wii Sports, which would have sold more.
yeah.
Would have been 1-to-1.
But there have been
obviously.
significant launch games like
Mario
Twilight
64,
Princess. Yeah, Mario 64. So that's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. No, Mario World.
Super Mario Brothers.
Was Mario World a pack-in?
Mario wasn't Super Mario
Mario-
Brothers wasn't a launch game.
Yeah. It was a launch window,
yeah.
but not right at launch, and it definitely wasn't a pack-in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Super Mario World was at launch, but I think they sold a deluxe set. I think maybe for the Super Nintendo. That
It came with Mario World.
it did. Okay,
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
And 2 controllers.
Yeah.
And this is the
it's
first
crazy.
time a system's come out with 2 controllers since then.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Isn't that cool?
So what do you guys think about the system itself, about the Switch?
I haven't even got a chance to mess with it. I know you guys have a lot
yeah,
more
I mean,
than
Vince
me.
reviewed it, gave it a
I've
7.
just been
Yeah,
playing
obviously,
Zelda is
yeah.
what I mean.
I mean, I think
You ended up with a flat 7?
Yeah, flat 7.
we're a little lower, and you ended up raising it in the as you continue to get some time with it.
Yeah, that's right. And it's like, I think that my original approach to it, I was like, okay, first things first, it does 2 primary jobs, I thought to myself. So it's trying to be, to some degree, a home console. It's trying to be, to some degree, a handheld gaming device. So I was like, well, let's talk about it in terms of being a console. Let's talk about it in terms of being a handheld device. And you know what kind of happens there is like, if you compare it to things that are designed to do that one thing and that one thing only, yeah, it does fall short. It's not the most powerful or most reliable console, and it's not the most portable or like long-lasting handheld. But then again, you have to, what happened in the interim time between my review in progress and the final is that I really started to think about it in almost the reverse way, which is like, if I was playing a PS4 and then I could pick that PS4 up and take it into my car, what would I say about that PS4? I'd be like, that's the most amazing PS4 I've ever seen in my life. Or on the other hand, if I had a handheld that could produce visuals that were on par with a console that I had sitting in my living room, what would I call that handheld? I'd say, this is the most amazing handheld I've ever seen. So, not to say that the Switch is the most amazing thing that I've ever seen, but when you think about it in those terms, it really is an impressive piece of hardware. The fact that it can do both of those things so well and that it can do them seamlessly leads to kind of experiences. Like the one I really brought out in my review was, there was a point at which my girlfriend was watching TV in the living room, and I was like, you know what, I was playing in the bedroom on the big screen, was playing Zelda, and then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out and hang out with her in the in the living room. So just boop, took my system off, went there, chilled with her in the living room, and then like she's done watching, and I feel bad because I'm just sitting there playing. So I'm like, you know what? We're gonna play snipper clips. And I'm like, stand up the screen in front of me, and I'm like, here's a controller. And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah.
That's like a Switch moment. That's like from the commercial.
Exactly. It's like right from the commercial. We played for an hour. She loved it. I loved it. Snipper clips. What a game. That's a great game. And we were like, you know what? We want to play on a big screen. We're getting uncomfortable on the couch. Yeah, fine, no problem. We went inside, threw the Switch right on the dock, sat in bed, and kept playing the very same way. And when I said the same thing in my review. When the use case arises like that, when you have those scenarios, then it's like it's a revelatory piece of hardware.
I think you gave it a flat 7, which is good on the IGN scale. That's actually a little higher. Like most people are kind of in the okay range. Like it's an okay piece of hardware. And like I respect anyone that has to give a scored review to something like this has to review it in the broader context of like you can't really recommend the Switch over the PS4 or the Xbox One. Like if you want to play Red Dead, if you want to play these big AAA games, probably you need another console.
Yeah.
But for me, I absolutely love it. It passes that sort of intangible test of I really like fiddling around with it. It feels good in my hands, and it's tough to bake that into your score. But like the Wii U didn't. Like it was plasticky, and I didn't like the analog sticks.
Puffy.
And puffy, and like the Switch. It almost reminds me of the original DS to the DS Lite.
Oh yeah.
There's definitely an evolved thinking here, and
what is this light gonna look like? Oh my god!
It's so obvious. You can draw a direct line between the Wii U to the Switch, and like, hey, what if you just pop those controllers off? And
it's really funny to see that.
So I respect the people giving it okay reviews, and I think that those reviews are accurate when you have to responsibly score something in the technology context that exists. But for me, for Justin, it's like a 9 out of 10 console. Like it's just it's so great.
I wish I was traveling right now because if I could take this on a plane, it would just be such a relief.
That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
Nice.
I'm flying to Colorado for a wedding, and I'm taking my Switch on the plane with me. It's gonna be.
I'm in the middle of a game that all I can think about is playing this game.
Yeah.
Like it's very cool that I could just go on a plane and just keep on playing.
I keep bringing my Switch into work, and I gotta stop. I gotta stop.
But everybody has all the good amiibo at work.
Yeah.
So you have to bring your Switch in to tag in the stuff and get all the costumes on.
It's just like you were saying. I've been playing Zelda on my big screen TV at home this week. Tomorrow I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna play Zelda on the plane, and then when my wife and I have downtime in the hotel room, we can play snipper clips in the hotel room. Like it's awesome.
It's the interesting thing about this is I built, I talked about it on Scoop a little before. Last fall, I built a supercomputer. It's expensive, and now it's sort of like I'm playing Horizon on my PS4, but it kind of puts the Xbox One and PS4 to bed outside of exclusives. Anything that's multi-console, I'll play it on that supercomputer on ultra settings. But now Switch makes me, Nintendo's made an argument for console gaming in the context of, PC being superior in a lot of ways. Like a game like Yooka-Laylee, I would never really play that on PS4 or Xbox One, but now I have a choice to make. Yeah. Like, do I play that, in Steam? It's very easy and convenient. Or
That's
now,
a perfect Switch game.
There's a reason to get get multi-platform games on Switch when maybe there's less of a reason to get them on PS4 and Xbox One, as long as they're not going to be pushing the console graphically.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's, to me, I feel like that console in some ways is going to get more use than my other home consoles because I happen to, I'm lucky enough to own every platform that can play games.
Yeah. And what's interesting too on that point is that at first, in my review, I do mention that on paper, when you look at the numbers, it's very hard to give. It's not an apples and apples comparison, the Wii U to the Switch, right? Like one is running on an x86 architecture, the other one is a mobile, the Tegra X1 architecture. So they're very different.
Sure.
There's
Take your word for it, Vince.
they're not. You can't just say, hey, look, these numbers are higher than those ones. Yeah. That one must be better.
It doesn't
translate that way. So it's still hard to make a hard case about how much more powerful the Switch might be than the Wii U. But what's interesting about it, and I did knock it for that, okay? But what also is interesting to think about is that when I saw Mario Kart 8 running on the Wii U, not the Switch, on the Wii U, I thought to myself, A, this is freaking gorgeous. Yeah. And B, I'm like, we're not at the threshold for graphics at large in general, but this is probably as good. This is probably as much power as Nintendo needs to make Nintendo games.
That's my exact thought as well. It's like I'm happy that Horizon is there, dropping my jaw. But I don't need Nintendo games to look better than Mario Kart 8.
Like, me neither.
That's it. That's enough for me.
I'm totally in the same camp.
And like Mario Odyssey, looks incredible. Like
I feel like this is a cutting edge game graphically in some ways just because it's big and because you can
Breath of
climb
the Wild?
everything.
Breath of the Wild, you mean?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
What I said.
Oh yeah, you just yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's really impressive technologically, and I wonder like what will Switch games look like in 2 years? Can Metroid Prime look beautiful?
Yeah, I mean, like the answer
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the answer is, and this might be a tough pill for some people to swallow, but when you think about it in the context of what we just said about Mario Kart 8, what will Switch games look like in 4 years? Like Breath of the Wild at best. You know what I mean? I don't think you're going to see that much of a ramp up, but I think for Nintendo and what Nintendo does, that'll be okay. I mean, like, and yeah, we can talk about, well, what about third party, AAA titles, and like, let's be realistic. We have the same dance and the same talk at the beginning of every generation. Oh, well, this is the one where we think they might get it, and maybe they convince one or two people to make a port. But then after that, it just peters off, and it does become about the Nintendo exclusives. And I don't imagine the Switch will be much different, at least in terms of large AAA style games, right? But that's okay. Like I feel like even if it's only slightly more powerful than the Wii U, we'll still get great Mario, Zeldas, and Metroids out of it.
It is worth pointing out that Zelda runs at 720p on the Wii U, and it runs at 900 on the Switch. So, again, it's tough to benchmark them directly against each other at this early state, but there is more, there is more horsepower. In
Definitely,
the,
yeah.
Or in the Switch.
And double the RAM for sure. We know that as well.
I definitely noticed playing on my TV. I definitely noticed that frame drop. Anytime
Yeah,
there's like
that
a
is
lot of
unfortunate. I hope
trees
that,
or something. It's like,
well, the game's running at a high, so it's running at 720p on the Switch tablet, and then it's running at 900p when you put it into your television.
And you can drop it to 720.
See, I don't think you can.
No, I've done it. It looks
do
a
that?
little bit blurry. You just go into your Switch output settings.
Oh, does
Right,
that?
but I don't know if that
doesn't
actually.
solve
I think
the
it's
problem.
Still, I think
Doesn't
it's
solve the
ground
problem.
sampling.
So it's
like,
yeah.
Yeah, I did the experiment. Like it just makes it a little bit blurrier, and I don't think it.
well, but I
solves
wonder if
anything.
it's still outputting at 900 and then.
Because what's happening there is like you're changing the resolution that the system is outputting at, but you're not changing what the graphics card is rendering.
Yeah, so
Like,
I would.
the graphics card is still the GPU is still rendering.
My point is, it
a
doesn't seem
900p
to solve the
image.
problem, so
But
that,
it's
that
putting,
checks out.
I hope that from a software, I hope they do actually do what you're describing, which is I feel a little bit trapped where now I feel like I have to play Zelda on my tablet because it runs at such a higher frame
Yeah,
rate.
I said the same thing in my
I don't want to
review,
put it in my television. Like at my, I'm sitting on my couch at home in front of my television, choosing to play on my tablet because it runs better. And so I hope that they give me the option to display on my television, actually have the GPU push, the 720p version of the game to my TV.
I agree, and what's weird about that too, Justin, is that when I think about the numbers, I've been looking more at because now we know a little bit more about the specs. Before the review embargo, Nintendo had forbade anyone from opening up the system.
They
and looking into it.
never publicized benchmarks or anything.
Exactly. They still haven't publicized it. So a lot of this is based off of like Digital Foundry and other places that kind of specialize in these kinds of things. But what's very interesting is that, even though there's no hardware in the dock, when you take the system off of the dock and it's not connected to power anymore, the GPU clocks down to like 40% of its overall power.
For battery,
That's a lot.
Significant.
That's not like it's a half a step slower. It's less than half as fast here.
And that's kind of the NVIDIA Tegra, like their mobile chip, like, gaming laptops. That's a very common trick.
That's a common trick, right? Of course. But what's odd about it is that when you think about it, so going up from 720p to 900 on the when it's docked, but doubling the speed, it should be able to keep up. So it's so odd
maybe
that's
it's
the
not
problem.
fully optimized right now.
So this
I
is
suspect we may get a performance patch. I mean, there's been no news of one or anything like that, but just based off
Would be
personal
amazing.
experience.
here's my
It's already
suspicion.
amazing.
I'm gonna give out my speculation here for scoop. Okay, this is my thing.
Here you go.
We do know that you can choose to either, like, when the system is off the dock, it automatically clocks down the GPU. But when it's on the dock, developers have the choice of either using the full spec or the mobile spec.
Sure.
I think because Nintendo wanted to sell the promise of same experience on that TV as on the handheld. I think that in Zelda, the Switch has
Conspiracy
been
theory Vince.
the Switch has been spec'd to run at the same speed as
even
in
when
mobile.
plugged into the TV, your suspicion based off nothing, but
Yeah,
but this conversation,
right? And our
is that
performance
it's running at the mobile spec.
is it's running at the mobile spec, and that's why it's running at a worse frame rate, even though it's only like slightly higher resolution technically, but should have double the power.
That's totally plausible. Like someone that has more time on their hands than us. I hope they dig into
Yeah,
that.
me too.
I wonder if you could test it with heat output. Like I've noticed, I
Right.
don't know what's triggering it, but every once in a while, I can actually hear my Switch a little bit. It's still quiet.
Oh, really?
I can
When
hear
you're
it.
holding it?
Yeah, and there's air blowing
fan?
out. There's a fan in it, and there's air blowing out the top. The air's always blowing out the top if you put your hand up there.
Really?
But like just once, and it's never loud. It's never like PS4 loud. But like it's enough to be slightly hearable. Like it's a little tiny whir. And
Well, like no tablets like that.
I don't know of any. I mean, obviously iPads aren't like that.
Like an iPad with a vent on the side.
Yeah.
be
So,
weird.
but it's very. I mean, if anybody's concerned, don't be, because it's incredibly subtle and quiet. But I did notice it in a dead quiet room, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And so I wonder
Was
if
it in your sauna though?
I was in my sauna,
One of
in
your
my-
saunas, yeah.
one of those famous San Francisco apartment saunas.
So my question to you is: we all feel very varying degrees of positive about the Switch.
it's great.
But do we think it was rushed? And should Nintendo have let it cook a little longer?
It's absolutely rushed. I mean, I don't think it's even.
I don't want to wait for
arguable.
Zelda.
Well, but like, I wonder why. Like, why did it have to be out now?
Why March?
wonder,
I mean, it's
yeah.
odd to launch a console this time of year anyway.
My theory is that they knew that they were ready to go with Zelda. They didn't want Zelda to wait any longer, and they felt like launching their new system without the power, without a big blockbuster behind it, like that would be difficult. And I also think that they felt that a big blockbuster like Zelda would help sell the system, and they wanted to just link them up. My other theory, and this is like a little bit more cynical, I guess, is I think they might have had certain Q1 financial projections they had to make, and they said, you know what, if we kind of
They're
soft
gonna get
launch
a big
the Switch
chunk
now,
of money on launch day.
yeah, I think if we soft launch the Switch now, we'll hit our targets, and if we move it out to another quarter, we're not going to make our targets.
They have a history of doing this with their handhelds. The DS, the
Handhelds,
puffy,
yeah.
crazy DS, the puffy, crazy 3DS. I mean, this is what they do, and they iterate on it. And I don't see any reason why they wouldn't iterate on this and make a really nice light model.
Oh, well, that's interesting. You're thinking about it from a hardware perspective. I'm thinking about it from a software perspective. Like that UI, like you boot into that console. If you know, I'm in Zelda all the
Yeah,
time.
there's
but,
nothing to watch stuff on. There's nothing but the shop.
No Netflix or
well,
YouTube.
I mean, I can't even believe. Like, I think
really-
about
it's really
like
funny that
the
way.
Wii was so delightful, and Nintendo redefined themselves by having something like this Mii Plaza and the Mii Maker, and like there were all these little fiddly fun things to do with that console and make it a delight to use, and even something like the little jazzy menu music and the little like the shop where you'd have the character running across and hitting the coin block,
and
like,
the communities built around different
Yeah.
games from Wii U.
and all that stuff, and the communities on the Wii U, and then the Switch is just completely barren from a software perspective. That I'm like, there's been times where I want to take a break from Zelda, but my Switch is my new gadget, and I want to keep fiddling with it, and there's just nothing. There's no like fiddle factor to it now. Where, like the Wii was all about that.
Yeah, that's true.
It's very odd. It feels very barren and sparse, and like it's obviously.
Considering I didn't use any of that other stuff, it's hard for me to say like they made a bad. Like maybe they saw that people aren't using all the stuff they invested in.
Sure.
Remember
like PlayStation Home or something.
during the Wii, wasn't that the most used platform for Netflix? The most popular place to
No,
watch
I don't
Netflix
mean
was
that.
on the
Sorry,
Wii.
I mean that infrastructure of sharing and being in groups and, and posting stamps.
Well, and just little software things, and like, yeah, you're probably right. They surely have user
wonder.
stats on that.
But the fact that it's a tablet, it's like kind of
Well, but even outside of that, like, if
yeah, missing apps is crazy.
Yeah.
Like just sort that out.
yeah.
it's so
think they
so
want to be on
clear that the UI is temporary. I mean, it's clean and functional, and I like
Very
it.
fast.
But like, it's
I do appreciate
it's-
it.
You go
Speed.
through screenshots, it's like so nice. The click, 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 all touch.
I love that when you insert the cartridge,
new for
the
Nintendo.
game appears instantly.
Back to cartridges.
I mean, it's
We did it.
There's no games out right now. There's like 2-3 games worth playing, and so it's not a problem that the game nav looks the way it does. But they're big, chunky blocks, and there's maybe 3 of them fit on the screen at once.
Right.
Like, that's
Or
not
4,
gonna.
And you
like,
can't do the 3DS thing where you shrink it to smaller and smaller boxes.
I don't
I just
think
haven't
so.
played
No,
it
you
that
can't.
much.
And so that's the thing.
That's easy.
Like that's what signals to me
Weird.
that UI is so clearly temporary. Like they're gonna have no choice. Like it doesn't work for more than like 6 games.
And we
Even the
played an
eShop.
even more temporary OS before they even updated that.
Right. And even the eShop bears that out too, Justin. Like it's so right now on the eShop, there's 3 tabs. It's search, recent releases, and new releases, and that's it. It's like, so if this game isn't either about to come out or just came out, there's literally no way for me to browse games other than
Yeah, you're
by
gonna
that
need
way.
sorting when there's more than 10
Yeah,
games.
when there's more than 10 games, that's going to be a huge problem. I can't imagine they think that interface is going to work in any kind of long-term fashion.
I'm not too super concerned about it. Like, in April or May, whenever, at some point, we'll get an update and they'll refresh it and improve it. But it does signal to me, to your original question, that, obviously there was some desire at some level of that organization to not have that console come out in March.
Yeah, totally.
And then of course the Joy-Con, the left Joy-Con sync issues.
Yeah, luckily I haven't had any problems yet, but
I haven't either. I only read about them pre-launch, and we've been really, really trying to keep up on problems and solutions to those. And there just hasn't been that much since then. I think people are just playing Zelda. But man, I think you can also solve that problem on your own. With the same way that we had problems with just setup in a room, there are things that will make things not work, and the design should account for that. It's too bad it doesn't. But I think most of the problems you can solve unless you have a broken controller by the way you're playing. And if your setup is right, then it should be okay.
I have a suspicion. I mean, maybe you guys, we can do a little poll here in the room. I keep my wireless router right to the left of my television. That's where it lives.
me too.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
And so
That's weird.
wireless routers, wireless signals will they'll mess up Bluetooth signals, like short range Bluetooth signals. And so if you put your Switch right there, like I put my Switch, I don't know if this is why I haven't had trouble, but I put my Switch on the other side of my television, and even being, a few feet away from a wireless router can solve some of that. And I'm not an expert on this, like I'm repeating secondhand information now, but that's my understanding of, part of what can interfere with Bluetooth.
Our sister site, PC Mag, opened up some of the controllers, and I just recommend people check out
that's really
the
interesting.
article. It's very neat inside because they're so crammed with stuff. It's not just buttons.
That controller is
all
the
NFC
future tech,
stuff,
man.
and
Like,
it's
There's
nuts
a
in
lot
there.
going on.
Yeah.
And they're both different, the left and right do
Right.
different things. It's just exciting to look in there and see it. Check that out. It's on PC Mag. They did a good job with it.
and they put the NFC reader, the Amiibo reader, in the thumbstick. And I can just see like the engineers at Nintendo. They're like, you got to put the Amiibo thing in there, and they're like, there's no goddamn space. There's nowhere to put it. And then someone came into the room
What if
and they're
we
like,
put it in the thumbstick?
yeah, they're like, that thumbstick's just empty rubber. Just put it in there. Like
I have like a 3D image of the thing, and they're like, there's space here.
like I don't know that that's what happened, but like probably. Like,
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Let's check in with the listeners.
hey, listen.
Hey, listeners.
Hey.
Remember, you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com, just like Pete from Atlanta, Georgia did.
Nice.
Hey,
He
Pete.
says, Scope Crew.
Oh.
I assume he means Scoop Crew.
Scopes.
I'm a
Well,
long
we
time.
play, Scope as well.
We do play GameScoop.
Spin-off
Yeah,
game.
maybe he's saying Scope Crew.
Scope.
He says, I'm a longtime consumer of IGN. Thanks for the reverence and intellect with which you discuss gaming. Some of my friends and coworkers that only have an Xbox or PS4 have said, I'm really debating spending $360 to play the new Zelda. They care about the
Well, when you
game.
put it that way.
They care about the game, not the system. I've been reading about some of the reported issues the Switch already has, dead pixels, controller connection issues, etc. Do you think Breath of the Wild could potentially create a bigger sales spike for used Wii U consoles than for Switch? And that made me think about the data that Nintendo reported that Breath of the Wild is now Nintendo's best-selling standalone launch game. Surely they're not rolling in Wii U numbers in that. That would be
hard to know.
incorrect, right?
Yeah, I guess I haven't given a tremendous amount of thought to the breakdown. That'll be really fascinating if NPD or whoever, we get data on like Wii U sales versus Switch sales for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I honestly hadn't
I mean,
considered it.
anecdotally, I know a lot of people on my Twitter feed, which are MVC listeners and stuff like that. A lot of people are playing on Wii U.
Yeah, and I'm
It's
hearing-
great. Just $60 for the Zelda
Well,
game.
sure.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, yeah, it's slightly inferior, but not to the point of like if you play it, you're not going to feel like you're missing out in any major way.
Yeah, actually, twice I mistook the Wii U version for the Switch version. Just walking by someone's desk who was recording stuff for for the site, I was like, "Oh, it took me like a few minutes before I was like, "Oh, you're not playing on the Switch. You're playing on the Wii U." So that version is, for all intents and purposes, identical, really, and except you just can't take it on the plane with you or in the car. But
Yeah.
So I feel like there'll definitely be a surge in like used Wii U's. I've even been considering doing next. I haven't bought a Switch yet because it's not really in my budget as of right now. But I mean, I have access to them here at work. But in any case,
I saw you my Wii U.
Oh, we'll talk afterwards.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
What does a used Wii U go for?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is I hope you literally just reminded me. Amazon was offering a ludicrous trade-in for Wii U's.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
anticipated
I don't remember how much money it was.
$100
I think it was like $170 or something, and I only bought mine for like $220 refurbished.
wow.
And I'm almost sure that that's probably dropped off a cliff now because they update those trade-in values in
Yeah.
real time. So maybe before this scoop publishes, I'll run back to my desk and initiate the trade-in. But so To your point, I think it's maybe going to have the opposite effect where Wii U's are going to start flooding the market as people like me, jump onto the Switch.
Yeah, that could be it too. This is Dan Reason from Kent in the United Kingdom.
Gotta have a reason to Dan.
He says, I just watched the gameplay reveal for Shadow of War.
Ooh.
I actually haven't watched it yet, but it's apparently like 15 minutes long.
Yeah.
15-minute long gameplay reveal.
It's incredible.
He says it's a game I am really looking forward
That's a
to.
fresh question. Wasn't that this morning?
Yep.
Yeah. Ooh.
When it was first announced,
Oops.
fresh question. When it was first announced, one thing that people were talking about is the fact that it is the first confirmed game from Microsoft's Project Scorpio.
Yeah.
However, I find it a little strange that people aren't talking about the fact that it hasn't been confirmed for the Nintendo Switch. From my knowledge, is this already a bad sign for third-party support on the Switch?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you can absolutely expect, not definitively, some developers will make more of an effort than others, but a lot of those big third-party games are going to be, Xbox, PS4, PC. Switch is going to be left out.
Yep. Just Frank, don't buy a Switch if you want to play third-party games.
Yeah, I mean,
It was like
Nintendo games.
I know Horizon isn't multi-platform, but like even if it were, like there's
no way.
The Switch can't handle it. It could not handle Horizon.
I am a little, we're seeing graphic sliders in console games for maybe the first time ever. I shouldn't say ever, but thanks to the PS4 Pro and PS4, that's a thing that PC gamers have, been with forever, since the beginning of PC gaming, and now it has extended to consoles. It does feel like if you're making a low-end PC version of your game, like running on a potato PC, like maybe you port that to Switch.
Right.
Like,
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that as someone that
Shadow
loves
of
the
Mordor
Switch.
came
but-
out on PS3 and Xbox 360.
Yeah, well, but that was a debacle.
Yeah,
remember?
yeah.
Is that
It
the-
was
is that the
pretty
troll
rough.
you're making?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
A little bit of a troll there,
is the fact that it wasn't announced for the Switch the bad news for the third-party future? Like, no, the bad news for the third-party future was the first time someone asked someone at Nintendo, "Hey, what about the power of this thing?" And they're like, "Well,
It's running a mobile Tegra
It's not
chip, like-
about the power." And right, we knew right then what
Yeah.
this future was going to be. So
Like,
yeah,
I don't know. There's already a really nice like smaller game lineup that's building for the Switch.
Sure.
So
I mean, if EA,
I think that game would be fun if it could handle it because
Yeah.
that's a kind of Zelda type game that
Yeah.
would be fun to play on a plane or something.
EA and Activision are full of very smart people. I'm sure they're looking at this very closely. The console launched strong. We can already tell, like, who knows what the Switch is going to tell, but it's already clear it's going to be more successful than the Wii U. Like, I don't
sure.
like it. It
It'd
just
already be.
yeah, but so
quite yet.
like like if they were smart, they'd be prepping for this summer as soon as they could. Some snipper clips esque. I always think about. I think it was 2K released Carnival games on the Wii.
Yeah.
And it sold like 15 million copies.
one of the best-selling Wii
It
games.
managed to like slot into that like Wii Sports, Wii Play category of like, oh, you just get Carnival games for your Wii. Like, there's an opportunity there on the Switch to do like weird HD Rumble games. Like, but really only for like a year,
Yeah.
Like, so I hope that some third parties, bring out original titles like that. But no, I mean, I don't think we're going to see the big multiplayer.
Did you guys see Shadow of Mordor on the Pro? It's incredible.
It is.
Looks
If you
un-
haven't
that's
watched that gameplay
yeah,
reveal,
looks
dude.
like-
no. Sorry, the first game. That got ported
yeah.
to
Oh, with
Pro.
the
Just running
Oh,
on
yeah.
the PS4 Pro.
It's like
insane.
it's nuts at 60.
the mud
It
looks
look-
nuts.
Yeah, and that game is, a couple years old now, and just the port. So, like, I cannot wait to play this game. It's going to be, Horizon, that, like, a lot of indications. that
the
this game's gonna
industry
be gorgeous.
is branching, and it has been for a long time now. But I guess now it's more evident than ever that these high-end graphics games like Horizon and Shadow of War, they're going in a different direction than where Nintendo is going with the Switch. And my hope is that they can both thrive.
Makes it more interesting.
This is Matthew from Apex, North Carolina.
Hey,
Yeah, Matthew.
That's a place.
Check this out. He says, I'm 50,
Whoa.
Nice.
and I have no need to leave my house with a Switch. Any chance of Nintendo making a home console only version? I've bought way too many Nintendo systems that I bought only 7 games for.
That's like when we also were saying that the Wii U could be shipped without the tablet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it
Yeah.
is. I don't understand.
The
I
whole
guess I kind
point
of don't
is
get like a version without the screen. You mean that only?
Yeah, I mean, that would be cheaper, I guess.
Well, you could presumably like Sony did the Vita TV
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
years later. So yeah, I mean, maybe a cheaper version, like drop the screen and drop some of that, but just ship all the same guts, in a box that loads carts into it. Yeah,
Maybe.
I wouldn't put that out of the realm of possibility, but it would certainly be down the line until they'd well established, the whole gimmick of the Switch is
Yeah.
pull it out and take it on the go. That's their whole marketing. So it would have to be after that.
And I think even after that point, I think they'd be in dangerous waters because they have this problem where if they sell that system, then they're potentially fragmenting their it becomes hard to tell at that point. Like, hey, how many of our users are dual users and how many of our users are just sitting at home in front of the and I don't think they want to open up that kind of work.
Yeah, and it runs into a thorny issue of removing they have to have their removable controllers and the Joy-Cons. Yeah, maybe I was wrong, maybe not.
Well, they'd also have to build up a great library of exclusive games that would sell it. Otherwise, it would just be a severely underpowered console.
Right. Yeah. That's the other thing is that they'd have to sell that thing for to make it attractive to people. They'd have to sell it for
$99.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like around that price point.
With Fire Emblem being pretty awesome on iPhone and Pokemon Go and then Mario, with that and this out, like what the heck is going to happen to the 3DS?
Yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting.
Like I couldn't
It'll
predict before it came out. Now that I have the Switch, I'm like, oh boy, like I don't have much room for the 3DS.
Will they
in my
leave
life.
Pokemon?
And I'm still playing Fire Emblem.
Will they leave Pokemon on 3DS or bring Pokemon to the Switch?
It'd be incredible on the Switch.
I mean, I think the Switch. I mean, I can't speak for you. For me, the Switch feels a little bit more like a portable console than I expected it to. To me, it's like 60-40 portable console, home console. And I don't mean in my play time, but just in the headspace that it occupies for me. Like I think about it almost more as a 3DS replacement than a Wii U replacement.
If Pokemon Stars comes out for that this fall, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree with you about it feeling more like a portable. I mean, I wrote as much in my review that it's basically a portable that plays dress up as a home console. The problem is that in order for them to get rid of the 3DS market altogether, like first of all, the 3DS is a huge moneymaker for them, and like their bespoke handhelds always are. And as much as I think the Switch is a cool piece of hardware, I don't think it has the same utility, portability, or like just the raw functionality of what you need out of a handheld system. That it protects its own screen, that it lasts forever, that it's rugged and it fits in your pocket.
It's just the fact that there's also the phone with the Nintendo games on it now. It's just that addition is just a little bit for me. Like
it does put Nintendo
three
in
different things with portable Nintendo games.
It puts the company in a little bit of a tight spot. I guess I hadn't thought about it too much, just because the Switch launched pretty strong. Seems like so far so good. But they got sort of smartphones squeezing them on one end and the Switch squeezing them on the other end, and yet their portables are such a moneymaker for them. They're like, what do they do in like 2 years when the 3DS is sort of too old to keep making games for? Yeah, that's weird. I hadn't really considered it. If they do another,
I'm just surprised at how good some of the Nintendo mobile games have been too. Like if Fire Emblem wasn't as fun as I love that game.
I wasn't really into it.
Yeah, but I play it more than I played the 3DS Fire Emblem.
Wow.
And I think they're similar. I mean, they're both Fire Emblem games, and I like Fire Emblem a lot. So,
you spend any money
what's
on it?
Animal Crossing going to be like? No,
I can't imagine. It's hard to. I can't even imagine Sam spending money in a free-to-play mobile game.
Yeah, I've never done that.
Yeah, I think he would de-age by like 10 years.
Spent some money in Gumballs and Dungeons.
Yeah.
And that was it for me.
That's your jam. Jeez.
You're basically a whale for that game.
I've spent. Let's see. I'm on.
What about those Star Wars cards? That's the whale.
I spent a lot of money on Star Wars.
But you
cards.
made money too.
I did make more than I spent. I've spent probably $20 on Gumballs and Dungeons.
Okay, that's not so bad.
See,
I don't think that's whale territory.
Nah.
This is Terry from St. Louis. He says, I really valued the daily log feature on the Wii U and 3DS. I'm not even familiar with what that feature was.
It shows what you've been playing for how long.
Okay.
It's
very funny.
It's very robust with like charts and stuff.
Okay. He says it was nice to be able to scan through the history of the system and reflect on the games I spent the most or least time with. I actually much preferred it to the achievement and trophy features on other platforms. Right now, the log is absent from the Switch interface. Is this something that could be patched in later, or is it probably gone forever?
Terry, I have good news for you. This is a hot scoop.
Oh,
Right here.
Oh boy.
People are just now discovering. I saw this popping up on Reddit today. I hope it wasn't some like elaborate troll because I haven't. I'm just seeing the pictures circulating
I
that.
don't know what you're talking about.
So the console right now tells you when you last played something. You last played Zelda 20 hours ago. You last played Shovel Knight 2 days ago. But after 7 days, that ticks over into a total time played.
Oh.
So it changes. And so everyone's like, the Switch doesn't have an activity log, but it secretly does, and it was hiding there. And people that got their Switches early or whatever are kind of discovering that now. So I've seen some screenshots that like played Zelda 50 hours, played Zelda 100 hours. So it is in there, but
And they can make it more elaborate with updates.
It's-
if that's the question,
Yeah,
yes.
that's just software.
I'm sure they
easy
can.
to
it's not very elaborate or fancy because I completely agree, Terry. I love that feature. Nintendo does that better than anybody, oddly. And it's not very robust right now, but at least it is there.
Cool.
This is Ian from Seattle, Washington. He says, I love your guys' show. It makes my 45-minute commute to school much more enjoyable. I'm currently a senior in high school, and I'm about to move off to college next September. My question is regarding what consoles I should take to college. I currently own an Xbox One, PS4, GameCube, Wii, original Xbox, Nintendo 64, and a retro trio with NES, SNES, and Genesis. With the Switch having been released, I will inevitably buy one of those too. This got me thinking there's no way I'll have space for all these consoles, required accessories, and games in my tiny little dorm room. However, I play all these consoles on a regular basis. Can't decide which to part with. Which consoles do you guys think I should bring, or which would you bring, given
Don't
my
leave that
situation?
at your parents' house. They'll get rid of them.
Yeah. Oh, my mom. Oh.
Yeah, so that's what happened to me.
Well,
She got rid of all my Magic the Gathering cards.
Oy.
yeah,
I was wiped out completely to zero from everything I owned as a kid.
yeah, I guess pretty much me.
Be careful.
Take the N64.
Well,
Really?
Dorm?
so?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
more than like the Switch.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, that,
Because you played it.
Yeah.
no, like that'll get played.
64.
Well,
Yeah,
what I
people
was
think
going to
nobody
say,
knows what that is.
People play
besides
GoldenEye
him.
and Mario Kart 64.
I think
But not people his age.
I think local multiplayer gaming is really big, really great for college. Getting people in your dorm room is also great for making friends in your dorm. So you want to have a system that you can have people over and
That's exactly.
crowd around the TV.
Sure, but we are at the point now.
Couch play.
Sure, but we are at the point now where people are going to take one look at, even people who just play games on their mobile devices will look at what's on the screen and be like, okay, have fun playing that.
Well,
I
that's
mean-
why I thought the Switch would be a good one.
You're acting like
Mario Kart
18-year-olds.
Smash Brothers. That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, you're acting like kids have never heard of, like, what is this a relic from the museum? Like, they know, like, everyone has a fondness for GoldenEye and, like, all those games.
Yeah, I don't think
know if
GoldenEye
it's
plays very well today.
It's too hard to play.
GoldenEye is impossible to play today.
But Perfect Dark is still pretty fun. But even in that case, you probably want to play the Xbox Live Arcade.
I think,
versions.
was it Terry or was it the last questioner? Anyway,
This was Ian.
Ian. I think you bring your PS4 and Xbox because, you know, if you only have one or the other, you'll miss out on Halo or whatever. And then you bring the N64. That's what I say.
I say you bring the PS4 and the trio.
Well, I think the Switch is going to be great for local multiplayer gaming.
Switch will work.
Well, obviously the Switch.
I would
like,
be
It's going to have the Street Fighter game that looks really fun. It's going to have Smash Brothers. It's going to have Mario
It's going to
Kart.
get the eShop.
That's
and
what you need for your
the
dorm.
virtual. It has the eShop. It's going to get the virtual console and all that stuff. So in that case, you don't need the retro trio, probably.
depending on how good the virtual console is. If it's as good as the original Wii virtual console was, then you won't need
I
it.
cannot believe the Switch launched without virtual console.
I know.
Nintendo.
I know.
The virtual console
on
is
you.
the best idea that you continue to screw up.
after the NES Classic too, which people were like, take our money
Yeah.
for these 25 games. Like, just put those on the system.
If you put Super Mario World and like Link to the Past and these other games on there, you wouldn't have a complaint. You buy yourself 6 months of not having any games on your console.
I wonder if that was part of the problem, though. I'm sorry, Dave, real quick, but I wonder if that was why we didn't get the virtual console. Do you think maybe we haven't gotten it yet because they still want to finish selling NES classics?
I just bought one.
Yeah,
Last
you'd actually
week.
go in. Yeah. Prediction: Nintendo will sell an NES Classic software package for the Switch.
That'd be so cool.
Just the games,
Oh.
all in one package, and it'll have
And
the
then you
same
have your little
interface.
controllers and you
It'll have the same interface.
Like it'll launch into its own little thing.
yeah,
That'd be neat.
Exactly. Yeah. That's my prediction. You heard it here first.
I love it.
I just hope whatever they do with the virtual console, that they do what they did with the original Wii virtual console, which is that they have not just Nintendo stuff, but they have TurboGrafx 16 stuff, that they have
the best.
Sega stuff, and not just Sega US stuff, but stuff that never came out in the US, like Alien Soldier and things like that.
They had NES games that never came out.
They had Mega Drive games. They had stuff from all different manufacturers. Yeah,
Wii
really cool.
virtual console is glorious.
Please do that again.
Real quick before we play Video Game 20 Questions.
We're gonna play.
Also out this week is Ghost Recon Wildlands, a game I feel a little bit sorry for because it's supposed to be pretty good, but I think everyone is either playing Horizon or Zelda
Yeah.
right now.
Our review will be up by the time this episode's up, and
Yeah.
our reviewer does like it, and then our Game Help people that are covering the game like it as well.
I feel like it's odd. I don't know what the bias against it is. Everyone seems so surprised to like it.
Well,
Everyone's like, yeah, it's actually it's actually pretty good. And I'm
when I
like, why
played
is that
it-
your attitude?
I
played
wasn't
E3.
crazy about it when we played it at E3, but that was
Didn't
I
preview
think those
for
early
everything.
previews are probably part of why that is,
Yeah.
Justin.
Yeah,
but
that's why.
but you're right, it is weird. Like I'm trying to remember what the last Ghost Recon game that wasn't considered a huge success was, and I can't even.
But this one's an
think
open
about it.
world one.
You know what? It's actually pretty good.
Nier is out too.
That's right.
Well,
that
and
game
I'm
is
I'm super surprised at how good the reviews are for that game.
Yeah.
Because the first Nier is like a cult called. I don't know if it's a. You know,
I mean,
it's
it's
a
platinum, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, but
They did some part of it. They did like the combat. Or something.
yeah,
that's the part you want them
You
doing.
can,
Yeah,
and you
exactly,
can tell,
yeah.
and you can tell, yeah, for sure.
It looks cool.
yeah. It's the reviews for
It's
that
so
game are
different. You're like
great.
riding a deer. You're like in a spaceship.
That game is
Half
five
of that
different.
is
That hits
also
five
Zelda.
different genres in the
Totally.
first like hour and a
Yeah,
half.
the
I
game
swear.
looks crazy.
It's all over the place. I love it.
But with Ghost Recon, the one good news can see with that game is that these recent Ubisoft online multiplayer games seem to have a lot of legs, and the online community lasts for a long time
they
with
did Rainbow
Division
Six, right?
and Rainbow Six
Yep.
Vegas,
And that's
so-
continued to grow like year on year.
So maybe
now for them.
maybe even if
Honor,
maybe even if everyone doesn't jump on Ghost Recon right away, maybe it'll last throughout the Zelda and Horizon
It can outlive it.
storm. Yeah, we'll see. And then one more thing, over the weekend, since I could not play Zelda, I spent a good portion of the weekend playing Donkey Kong 94.
Oh,
And
Perfect
that
game.
is a
Wow.
perfect video game.
what a deep cut!
It's a perfect game.
Dude, I had
It
to
is
fight.
so good.
Where were you in the meetings? Why didn't you speak up in the top 100 games meetings we had a couple years ago?
It was in
I
there.
don't remember.
I mean, yeah, but I had to fight tooth and nail to get it in
I
there.
remember people talking about
Dude,
it.
game
Donkey
is so
Kong
good.
94 is dope.
It's so good.
It's like 100 more perfect Donkey Kong levels.
Well, it invented
Well,
the puzzle platforming genre.
It's more of the puzzle platformer, yeah. So if you never,
the
if-
Mario jumps that were in later
that's the
games,
thing,
too, like-
yeah.
It
Altano,
invented
Altano just pointed this out to me that sort of invented that Mario 64 triple jump.
Yeah.
that would
And the
be
somersault.
incorporated a couple years later. Yeah, it's so good.
And then that game, that series became all minis focused, and
Yeah.
the minis games are fine, but that's
not
never that
as
game.
cool. Yeah,
But there's
That
a
game's so good.
there was a beautiful before it became all minis. There's like Mario versus Donkey Kong, and there's
I
a few
love the first Mario versus
really
Donkey
good
Kong.
sequels.
Yeah.
yeah.
Never had that cool graphic style though, because back then Donkey Kong was still
Yeah.
Donkey Kong from the arcade machine.
Yeah, not the
It was
Donkey Kong
before
Country.
Rare.
Yeah,
And doesn't
I
And
know.
he looks awesome.
I
refresh my memory.
so much prefer the arcade Donkey
He
Kong.
looks so cool.
Isn't Donkey Kong 94? Doesn't it take place on like Earth? Isn't it in? Aren't the cities like New York
Well,
and
it's
like
just like
London?
Kong.
There's like the levels are like
You're in
forest
construction sites.
Oh, it might
island or whatever. Yeah,
Okay, maybe I'm mistaken.
maybe there's a New York level. I'm not. I don't remember.
But you're in
A new Dunk City level.
you're in
Yeah.
areas which a King Kong like character would invade. You're not in like space or something.
That game was released on the Game Boy. If you can play it on the Virtual Console version, you should definitely check it out. As Sam says, it is a perfect video game.
Yeah, one of the top 100 video games ever
It's
made.
just
according
called
to IGN.
Donkey Kong.
It's called Donkey Kong. Yeah.
We call it Donkey Kong 94. What's funny is that the first 4 levels of it are just Donkey Kong.
It's insane.
But then all of a sudden you climb higher and you're like, what? And then you just go up another 100 floors.
yeah, it's really really good.
Perfect.
All right, it's time to play Video Game 20 Questions. This week's suggestion comes from Andrew in Virginia.
I'm ready.
Let
Virginia.
the questioning begin.
I'm gonna start with me. Should I do our inaugural question? Was this game made after January 1st, 2000?
Made?
Oh, I'm sorry, released.
Yes.
Well, I like the clarification there. Yeah, I heard. Yes, after January 1st, 2000.
Yes.
Does your character talk in this game?
Hmm.
Either through is there on-screen dialogue or voice acting?
I can't answer that question.
Okay, well, does your character collect and spend money or currency of some kind?
I can't answer that question either.
Oh,
I pass.
You're
I
over-
pass.
You're over 2
Does this have a multiplayer mode?
No.
Are you?
Why are you laughing?
I just
We're
hope
getting
I'm,
clues.
I think I'm right. No, it doesn't have a multiplayer mode.
Just to be clear, Banjo Tooie does have a multiplayer mode.
Was this a platform exclusive?
No.
Did this
Every
I said no.
question.
Yeah,
I said no.
Every single question.
Let the
did this
record
game
show, I
did
said
this
no.
game get a physical release in stores? Or online?
You said, well, yeah, physical release. No, it did not. No.
Digital
no.
game.
What is going on?
You guys are asking hard questions.
Damon, get your life together, man.
That sounds like a weird game. Is it a weird game?
Is it a
That's a
weird
good
game?
question.
I
I know. I think you should ask that. That's how we would have gotten. We would have gotten.
know so many.
Eye
of
of
them would've been
Judgment.
fun.
Right, God, I have judgment.
Okay, so
Did you ask about?
after 2000,
You said it was a console exclusive.
it was not
Not a platform
it's not a
exclusive.
platform
Not a
exclusive,
platform.
Yeah, not a
Multi-platform
platform
game
exclusive.
that was digital
It-
only.
and it's not a multiplayer.
Okay, is this after 2010?
No.
Is the primary mode of action shooting?
Yes.
A shooter with no multiplayer.
We've been down this road.
Is it
before.
finally going to be black?
I love that.
I don't even
No,
know.
that got a physical release.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't even care for that game that much, but whenever we're playing 20 questions, for some reason, it always pops into my head. Red 13.
Right.
That also got a physical release.
13.
Sure.
Oh, shooting. So it could be like
An arcade shooter. That right.
or it could be like everyday shooter. I don't know why
Right.
that one pops
Yes,
into my head, but like
exactly.
some did like destroy all zombies.
Right, and
or-
I mine was that I got was Stardust a couple weeks
Super
ago.
Stardust.
Yeah.
Is this game like played from a top-down perspective?
No.
So that rules out like Geometry Wars.
Is it a 3D game?
No.
It's not played from top-down perspective, but it's not a 3D game. Okay, so
Side-scrolling
so
shooter.
probably side-scrolling then.
So that leaves you with I mean, like
this
Super
a
Time
retro
Force
style game?
was too late, but something like that.
Sure.
Sam asked if this is a retro style game. The answer is yes.
Contra 4.
Yeah, hardcore.
Or it could be
Contra 4 was what, the
That's only on
DS
the
one?
DS. I think hardcore is the one that's like on everything.
Heart.
But
Oh,
that's
you're right.
not retro.
Contra 4 was a
style.
console exclusive, and it got a physical release.
Right.
This is digital only.
Heart. Right. So I think I think it probably could be hardcore.
Or just something like. I mean,
So we should
Yeah, so I mean, let's just
try to dig into that.
Let's just clarify. Like, is it a side-scrolling, left to right game where you're
Okay,
shooting,
so
where you're shooting guns?
so is this a side-scrolling run and gun shooter?
No.
No.
That's 10.
so there's like,
Top down, like ship, like Gradius.
is it a
R-Type.
Metroid? Should we ask if it's a Metroidvania? Then if it's a space shooter, that'll help.
Yeah, is it a space shooter?
No.
So,
We're in real trouble here.
is it a Metroidvania?
Yes.
Whoa, that's really good.
Where you probably,
So it's
Axiom Verge is too late.
Or
no, Shadow Complex.
Shadow Complex.
Shadow Com-
That's
it's-
retro style. It's 3D. This is not.
It's Shadow Complex.
I
No,
think
it's that game is 3D graphics.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, it's played on a 2D plane.
it's played on a 2D plane, right?
I mean, it's a Metroidvania. We can get there from here. That was a very good question.
yeah.
But wait, was it a console exclusive? Did he say?
No, he
I said it wasn't.
Wasn't.
I said it wasn't a platform
and
exclusive.
it did come to PC eventually, I believe, and to
Just fairly recently.
and just really
yeah.
right, yeah. So was this game developed by Epic?
No.
Oh well, then there you go.
Oh, dang.
Was this game on Nintendo platforms?
Yes.
But not a Nintendo exclusive.
Right, it wasn't a platform.
Sorry. It's not on a platform.
He asked if it wasn't if it was
Platform.
on. You asked if it
Nintendo
was on Nintendo platforms. I said yes.
And he said it wasn't a console.
It wasn't platform exclusive.
So this is something that came to. I think we need to narrow that down to
How many questions are we down to?
You have 6 left.
We're doing all right.
a Metroidvania on.
So
But see, it could be on any of the DSs or on Wii
right,
or
and
on.
he said
GameCube
after
at this
2010.
But I'm trying to think. Like,
No, it's between 2000 and 2010.
like even like like a Shantae doesn't have a lot of shooting, and obviously Castlevanias didn't have shooting,
There's a lot of 3DS Metroidvanias, and
but not shooting focused ones.
But we know it's a Metroidvania.
And 3DS would be too late because this is 2000 to 2010.
Right.
yeah, I don't know when the 3DS came out.
Nobody does.
No one does.
All right, 6 questions left.
But he says it's not a platform exclusive. I was
He
thinking,
says it's retro style, so we're talking about like pixel graphics.
Could it be a
Metroidvania.
Metroid? I was gonna say, could it actually be a Metroid?
Yeah, for sure.
For the DS
Or Castlevania.
or well, no, because he said primarily shooting, so couldn't be Castlevania.
It's a multi-platform though, so it can't be Metroid.
Well, if it's multi-platform though, that means it could have come out on the DS and the Game Boy or the DS.
Well, and Metroid Fusion came out on GBA and
DS, right?
yeah, and DS. Yeah, as the ambassador. Yeah, I have it as an ambassador for 3DS. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
That's what's cool. Is this a Japanese-made game?
Yes.
Made by Nintendo?
15. No. 4 questions
It
left.
was Metroid.
Wait, so I wouldn't call a Mega Man Metroidvania, but they are kind of non-linear.
No, definitely not at all Metroidvania. Yeah.
Well,
Because it doesn't have a contiguous world map
Yeah.
that you explore. It's stage based.
I'm on your side, but if someone wanted to make the argument about, tackle things non-linearly and power up as you
Maybe.
go. And,
Yeah.
So I mean, it's probably from Konami or Capcom.
yeah.
I don't know if Capcom's made a shooting based Metroidvania style game.
We're going to feel stupid if
Not
we
that I can
don't
think
get
of.
this. Yes.
Um,
we got Metroidvania so many questions ago. I can't believe we're not there.
Yeah, that's right. Like, I mean, it's not that many, and especially if you can shoot in it. But they also said,
it's just
wait,
we
they
never
also said
narrowed
there's
down
no
the systems
physical
and stuff.
release.
Yeah, it's a digital-only game.
The digital only game. But it was on Nintendo platforms. How many digital only games can there be?
Yeah, there's not many, Vince. That's making us feel real stupid right now.
Did this come to a home console?
Yes.
Okay.
What about Cave Story?
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, but that wasn't an exclusive.
It's probably Cave Story.
Is this
I think you
game
just did
is
it.
this game developed by Nicalis?
That's really specific. Let's
mean-
not go that far right now.
No, you don't want to. Okay, all right.
What's
Are there caves?
Yes.
all right? Is it Cave Story?
Yes. I was worried you guys weren't going to get there. 'Cause this one's tough. This was developed by one dude
That game came out before 2000.
who operates under
I'm
the
gonna
name
start asking that. Was this
Studio
developed by
Pixel.
one dude?
And so Nicholas did not develop this game.
Well,
They published it.
Yeah. So you don't want to go there.
They
then
got
there's a
tripped up there.
remake.
Originally released for PC in 2004. It later came to Wii and DS, and then there was Cave Story 3D, which came to 3DS, and I think did get a retail release.
Don't
but
play that.
Weren't doing that.
So those first 4 questions, which were hard to answer.
Do you earn currency? I don't. I
Got
know
it.
you're like upgrading your weapons and stuff. But I couldn't
I
remember
love
if you
Cave
earn a
Story
currency.
to death, but I haven't played it in many years because I played the original PC version. I think you're earning coins and spending your coins to upgrade your
I
weapon.
wasn't sure. And then I know some characters
okay.
talk, like Balrog
Maybe you're
talks to you, but I don't remember if you talk.
I think
Right.
you're, I think you're silent.
Yeah. so
Yeah, I think the
wasn't
main
sure.
character, it's a sound protagonist.
Yeah.
Cave Story 2004.
Or yeah.
That
And I-
game, it's notable for a bunch of different reasons, but maybe most notably because there wasn't really an indie scene in Japan. Japan was so far ahead of America when it came to video games, but not when it came to indies. Like we really leapfrogged them when it came to that. And Pixel, that made the game, maybe the most famous, or the guy that sort of kickstarted or that showed Japan that they could make indie freeware games too. And it's also a huge success because he just made it. Like a guy just made the
just
whole
one dude.
game and put it out in the world. And then only later, much later, did they start selling it. It appeared on Steam and it appeared on these other platforms for $10. Because that's how I first played it. Is you gotta play this really cool, platforming game. And there was a fan patch. You downloaded the Japanese ROM. It was shady as hell. And then you downloaded like an executable that would patch English text into the game that some fan had just translated and wrote. And that's the first way that I played Cave Story. It was awesome.
Yeah, and
You're-
if you haven't
you're a
played
robot.
What's up?
You're a robot.
Spoilers. Jeez.
Yeah.
it, jeez,
I played.
Not a spoiler.
I played when it came to WiiWare on the Wii, which would have been probably 2010.
There's pictures of you in the game and you're a robot.
Okay, it's not.
Okay? It's not a spoiler.
I know. We know it's not a spoiler.
In
Anyway,
any case, it's excellent game at what it does, and if you
Excellent
haven't
game.
played it before, you should totally find a way to play it on some platform.
well, yeah. If you still have your Wii, or on Steam, it's available on Steam. And I had totally forgotten that they made that 3D version for the 3DS.
It's
I never saw what that looked like in the end.
It was it was pretty ugly. Yeah.
It was really exciting when that came out on Wii. I think you might have reviewed it, but they did a really nice port in pixel graphics to the Wii, and then it came out on a bunch of other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really nice.
Yes,
original
and
of it, though. Beware.
Yeah. It's cool. There are lots of good stuff released on
R.I.P.
WiiWare. Well, yeah. They should now, maybe the WiiWare games can be part of Virtual Console.
Switchware.
Because there was a Blaster Master, there was a Castlevania, there was Contra, I want to say, and they were all released for WiiWare, and everything's trapped
Blaster
there.
Master.
I'm always down for more Contra and Blaster Master.
they turned WiiWare offline too.
I know.
Scoop.
Game preservation. man.
R.I.P.
Yeah, that's why we talk about game preservation. All right, that's all the scoops we have for you this week. Remember, you can always reach us at the email address gamescoop@ign.com. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
My name is Damon. This is IGN Gamescoop. We're out.
Hopes.